Right now, though, Indonesia, and a move by this man, President Joko Widodo, which won't be entirely popular. He's bumped up the price of petrol, heavily subsidised petrol, because with oil prices now below $80 a barrel, something has to be done about that heavy burden. Now, Jakarta had planned to spend almost $23 billion on fuel subsidies, which is just over 13% of its budget. But it needs at least $300 billion by the year 2020 to meet its infrastructure needs, that is, roads, airports, power plants and the like. So up go the fuel prices by 30%. It'll now cost 70 cents a litre. And as with any price rise, inflation will also rise, meaning interest rates will probably also rise as well. It will be a shock to the system, no doubt, though I'm sure plenty of you would be thrilled at the prospect of 70 cent a litre petrol. Nevertheless, how is all of this going to play out in Indonesia? Step Varson has more from Jakarta.
Only minutes after the announcement of the fuel price hike, people started queuing at petrol stations across the country. Indonesians are used to one of the lowest fuel prices in the world, and now they worry about rising living costs.
This gives us a headache because our expenses will go up while our profits will stay the same.
Indonesia spends around $20 billion a year on fuel subsidies, something the new government says has dramatically delayed investment in crucial areas.
That at least next year there will be a 10 billion US save because of this decision, and it means that there is more room for building infrastructure, education, health, and also the social security.
The low fuel price has also delayed investment in the country's aging oil industry. Indonesia was exporting its oil 20 years ago, but it's now become the world's largest importer of oil. Other sources of energy have barely been explored.
Due to costly fuel subsidies, Indonesia has hardly invested in alternative sources of energy, something that's badly needed if the country wants to keep up with a growing demand for energy and stop depending on oil imports.
To attract much-needed investment, Indonesia wants to simplify regulations and encourage competition with the national oil company. If nothing is done, the government admits the country could face an energy crisis soon.
It is very urgent. Yeah, it's very urgent to start thinking not only depend on the oil. So we should develop other source of energy because we possess a lot of energy resources. But the only problem is we depend a lot on oil.
To those on the streets, what matters most is to make ends meet. But many say with rising fuel and living costs, they are heading for a tough time.
Now, you saw the Energy Minister in that report from Step Varson. Here's her full interview now with Sudirman Said. She started by asking him why Indonesia was making this particular move now.
I would say it will never be perfect time. And I think it's just a leadership call. People in Indonesia and also international market has already waiting for this decision because this shifting subsidy to be more productive is a healthy move. It is important move for the people, and I think because of the bravery of the president, which he's willing to take difficult action. Something that is really needed by the people.
Indonesia spends more than $20 billion a year on fuel subsidies, right? How much is the country going to save?
Minister of Finance said that at least next year there will be a 10 billion US save because of this decision, and it means that there is more room for building infrastructure, education, health, and also the social security, which is, if people say that this is not pro-poor policy, I think it is. It is a pro-poor policy.
But when will poor people, for example, feel the first benefits of the money being spent directly to them?
The direct support is coming even these days. So there is no gap because the money is there already. And for the next year, we will also continue support until the next 6 months. And above that, there will be Kartu Sehat, Kartu Cerdas, Kartu Sejahtera.
So these are health policies and education benefit?
It is a special card for access for the health and education.
So, for example, like this week, what will a poor family feel? Now, of course, they feel that the fuel price has gone up, so that will really affect them. But how will they be compensated?
I would say there is a two feeling. Number one is psychological feeling, which is as if, of course, there is also real thing that they will have to pay more for transportation. But along the way, there will be cash support coming within this month, and of course there is some time needed to wait for everything is being settled. But I think within 6 months, within 3 months, everything will be settling down, and the Minister of Trade ensure that food supply for the people, I think, is secure enough.
But isn't that too much of a gap? Isn't that the period too long? Because in the past, when the fuel prices were raised, there were violent protests, there were like mass demonstrations. Are you expecting any of that now?
As the President said last night, that we expect a different view, and this is democratic country, so I think people will express the view, and we appreciate that. As long as there is no anarchy, there is no riot or violence. So I appreciate that, and I think the police, the security guard will take care of it, and according to the report, there will be more manageable protests compared to what happened in the past.
Because you were talking about a few weeks, maybe months, right, before poor people will actually feel the benefits. In that period of time, people can get really frustrated, right?
We understand that, we appreciate that, but I think my colleague, Minister of Social Justice, Minister of Education, Minister of Health, working very hard to make sure that the what people needed are served, and hopefully we can see better result.
Something inevitable is also the food prices going up, right? There's an estimated inflation of an extra 2%, right? So inflation in Indonesia will be around 7.3%. What are you going to do to make sure that these prices are not going to hit people too hard?
There is no such policy that make everybody happy, right? And then what we do is calculating the average level of inflation, which is you just spell out 2%. It creates additional 2 above 5 that we expected. But we also check to the Minister of Finance that it is still manageable rate of inflation. What we are going to do is providing a direct cash support, which we spend significantly above the impact. The calculation says that the direct impact for the poor is about 150,000 a month, but we provide 200,000 a month,
which is around $20.
Yes, about $20. I think this number, if we think about average people, it is quite sufficient, more than sufficient. But there is always anomaly. There is always a big extreme case. So we anticipate that. But I think in general, we can manage the level of inflation.
The popularity of this government and the president is still very high. How much will it affect the popularity, you think, this crucial decision?
I had discussion with the president last night, and he said, this is not about contest of popularity, this is about leadership. And sometimes leaders has to take a difficult decision, although it is at the cost of the popularity. But if we want to focus only on the popularity but deliver nothing, I think it is not leader's call. So I appreciate that even the president said that I will do myself to announce this.
But isn't there still a lack of communication? Because many people still believe that these fuel subsidies are actually benefiting mostly the poor people.
That is the misconception that we have to fight against. Popular perspective or populist perspective say that this is for people, but in fact it is poisoning the people. It trapped us into the comfort zone that cannot move. what we need to do is providing infrastructure for people to have a better purchasing power, prosperity. Then that can be kind of a multiplier for the economic growth.